Hello there. Welcome to the Development Conversations podcast. I am your host, Tobi Ransomed, and it is so good to have you back for the second episode. In the last episode, we talked about what this podcast is about, right? Who it is for. That is, it is for you, the development practitioner, and then some of the topics that we're going to be covering. And today, we're going to be looking at a very interesting topic that is dear to my heart. Drum roll. Okay, so we're going to talk about Development 101. Why are you here? Yeah, I know you're thinking, well, shouldn't we be looking at what is development? Who is development for? We are going to get into it in the nearest future. So today, you and I are going to be answering the question of why you are here. So grab your tea and your coffee, if you're a coffee lover like me, and join me for this ride. So picture this. You are a project manager and you just got the news from your donor that you would have to reduce your funding for the second time in a year. As if that is not bad enough, you had spent the past 1 week engaging with your stakeholders, including government partners, community leaders, and reworking your work plan to ensure that your project intervention is going to reach 50,000 more children with access to education. The excitement and the commitment from everyone is palpable. However, with this news, you would have to go back to them and communicate that this is no longer possible. And you take a moment and ask yourself, why am I even here? Maybe that is not your case. Your case could be that you're working with that difficult co-worker that seems to make the process very tedious. And they've pushed you so hard that you keep asking yourself, why am I even doing this work? Why am I here? The truth is that as development practitioners, we have at either one point or another grappled with this question. And this is why we are here today to answer this question. The question of why you are here or why am I here, for me, is at the root of purpose and values. Yes, purpose and values. I'm sure you're wondering how we moved from the question of why are you here to purpose and values. If you are, then stay tuned as we look deeper into what both mean and how they are very relevant to the work that we do and the impact we can make in the lives of project participants. Purpose is that deep sense of why. It is why you wake up in the morning. It is why you go out to do your work. It is why we live and breathe. And it is actually what informs the work that we do. For me, I can say that purpose, or my purpose, is to ensure that children from underserved communities have access to quality, gender-responsive, inclusive education, right? This is my guiding principles that shapes everything that I do, from the type of project I take on, the way I engage, and it also helps me to stay and continue even in the face of challenges. And as such, we all have to sit down and find out what our purpose is. Now, let us look at what values are. I remember reading a blog post when I was preparing for this episode earlier in the week about what values are, and the writer of the post clearly said that if purpose is the compass, then values are the map, or rather, the value that you hold on to as a person is the map on the journey. And that resonated with me very well. So, how do you know your values? You have to ask yourself, what principles are you unwilling to compromise in this rat race or in this journey or even the work that we do as development practitioners? So, we have a couple of values. We have integrity, collaboration, mutual respect, honesty, ethics, respect to human rights, These are all values that are there at our disposals, and we have even much more. So you need to question yourself, because when we start working outside of our value systems, we shrink in our core. And before you know it, you start having burnout, you start losing interest, and then the work becomes all about the gain, that is the remuneration that you get, or it just becomes about fulfilling the paperwork and the targets. So values are very important to us as development practitioners, because just like purpose, they guide how we do our work. And because values are at the core of who we are, straying away from them would mean that we will not be fulfilled and unhappy in the course of our work. Now, at this point, are you asking yourself, Tobi, I've heard you. How do I discover my purpose? Or how do I even know what my values are? Well, you're in the right place, because I actually plan to answer that question. Therefore, to answer the question of purpose, right, you have to ask yourself, why did I choose this path? Honestly, ask yourself that question. So I remember the first edition of the webinar that we had that was hosted by the Development Conversations. This was in June 2024, where we had amazing guests, Pauline Ada and Adeze Nwanyibuefe Ugoji. Both of them are development experts that have worked for a couple of years. And in the course of the conversations, they shared with us their why. For Paulina, her passion for maternal health led her to the field of development and taking on projects that aligned to that. And for Adeze, she saw an opportunity for career growth and also to make an impact as well in the area of health. And that was how she got into the development space. And so it is important for you to ask this question: why did you choose this career? Because it forms the basis of your purpose. And like Paulina and Adeze, their whys kept them even when things became challenging. I am sure, like myself, you have faced so many challenges. And if some of the challenges that you faced were similar to the scenario that I have shared, you might have even thought of changing your locations or even changing the jobs. But knowing and understanding your purpose, the reason you chose this career, is going to be what will keep you anchored. Now, let us look at values. Like I mentioned earlier, for you to know or identify your values, you can simply ask yourself the question of, what principles am I unwilling to compromise on? If you are someone that is bent on integrity, then integrity is your value. If you are someone that looks out for collaboration, that enjoys working with people, and you think that for you to make an impact, you need to collaborate effectively, then collaboration is one of your values. However, you can also look at the values in your organizations. I personally have had the opportunity to work with so many organizations that have outstanding values. And one of the things that made me to even join them, apart from the opportunity to make an impact, was the values they had. I think one of the favorite values I remember from one of the organizations, which I have gone back to about 3 times. I know, story for another day. So like I was saying, one of the values that they hold is that we are open and accountable. That is a strong one. And another one that myself and my colleagues always use, especially when we need help from one another, is we work well together. So you see, at the end of the day, when you look at the values that the organization you're working in and it aligns to you, please take it on. Wow. Let me ask you a question. At this point, have you been getting something? Because just sharing some of these nuggets with you is making me all fired up and also reminding me of my own purpose and reminding me of some of the values that I hold dear. But guess what? Holding on to your values and purpose is not going to be always easy. Yes, it's not going to be always easy. There are challenges that you're going to face. I mentioned some of them. So there are external challenges. Donor priority. Your donor might want A, while you think B should be done. But then they are the funders. Another challenge that is outside of your control is funding. I don't know if you have noticed that the funding space in general, especially in Nigeria, the country I am currently residing in, is shrinking. And that is because there's an increase in crisis across the world, right? And so we constantly see our funding reducing. That is one challenge that you don't have a say or you don't have control over. We have issues of insecurity. So if you're working in northeastern Nigeria or you're working in places like Gaza, you do not have a say over the security situation. We have climate change. We have political will, government bureaucracy. These are all external challenges that are outside our control. And then for internal challenges that we can control in one way or the other, include imposter syndrome. Yes, I said that. Sometimes we are called to tables that we feel we are too small for, but then the people that called us to that table think we can do it. But then because we question ourselves so much, we're unable to provide the value we're called for. Hey, we need to snap out of it. But then there are ways that you can actually do that. Yeah? So another challenge, internal challenge, could be conflict within your team. If you're a manager or you're a colleague or you're a co-worker, you might have conflicts. So we need to learn how we can resolve these conflicts. Then the issue of health. So these are some of the challenges. And I am mentioning these challenges because I believe that it is important that we are aware that in the course of our work or in the course of ensuring that we keep true to purpose and values, we need to be aware of these challenges. But it is not all doom and gloom because there is a way that you can stay aligned to your purpose and values. In the course of preparing for this podcast, I took the liberty to ask some of my professional colleagues, my associates, and even friends. I asked them, how do you stay true to your values and purpose, especially when you're faced with challenges? And I got different answers, right? But what I did was that I picked out some of the answers that were commonly reoccurring. That means a lot of people felt like the way that they could continue to stay aligned to their purpose and values were similar to what others were thinking, right? And so the first one is faith. Yes, faith. I noticed that a lot of people always go back to their source to find some form of encouragement and recentering. So faith is one strong pillar. If you want to stay aligned to your purpose and your value, then whatever faith that you hold on to should be an anchor. Number 2, reflection. Reflection. In episode 1, I talked about how usually for us as development practitioners, we have the tendency to keep going on and on without taking time out to pause and reflect. Well, my friends and my colleagues said that they reflect a lot, and I actually agree with them. Just sitting down at the end of the day to ask yourself why things did not go well, what can you do differently, how can you address things differently, are these what you want to continue working with, is very important. So reflection is key. Number 3 is community. Yep, community. Now, by community, I am not talking about the communities that we do our intervention in, but I'm talking about the people around you, the support network that you have around you that are able to hold you accountable, pour into you, encourage you, and keep you sharp, especially in your vision. Yeah, so this could include your family, your friends, your co-workers, and of course, your mentor. So a lot of people always fall back to their community when they are faced with challenges, they are questioned their why and their values. And then the final point that I took note of in my interaction with my co-workers and my colleagues and friends is that people set goals in line with their purpose and their values. And then what they do at the end of the day is that when they are faced with challenges, they go back to their goals. Because at the time that you're setting your goals, especially now that we're at the beginning of the year, it is important that you set goals that are in line with your purpose and values. And that forms an anchor for you. So my friends have said that when they face challenges, they go back to their goals and see, okay, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. This is just going to pass. But this is in line with what I've set out to achieve for the year. I personally do that, and that has helped. So these are some of the points that I have shared, practical ways in which you can stay aligned to your purpose and values. By way of a quick recap, number 1 is faith. Staying true to your faith and constantly connecting to your source. Number 2 is taking time to pause and reflect. Number 3 is surrounding yourself with supportive community. And number 4, ensuring that you have goals that are aligned to your purpose and your values so that you can always go back to them to remind yourself of why you started the journey. As we wrap up today's session, I want to leave you with a quote by John F. Kennedy. He said, "Effort and courage are not enough if purpose and direction is not known." Now, this is profound because it speaks to the core of today's episode. Remember, values and purpose are our anchors in this ever-changing context of development work. Therefore, I am pleading that you take out time today to actually find out what your purpose and values are. And by doing so, you're going to finally answer the question of why you are here. Thank you once again for being part of today's episode. I had a great time sharing some of these wonderful insights with you, and I hope that you picked up some valuable lessons that you will implement immediately. If you are yet to subscribe to Spotify and YouTube channel, please do so. We would also love to hear from you, so share your comments and feedback with us at the Development Conversations. That is on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter or X. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye for now.